One of 2025's first big films has arrived with Leigh Whannell's newest film, Wolfman, a new reimagining of one of the classic movie monsters. I was eagerly anticipating this movie, especially under the direction of Leigh Whannell. I got a chance to see it early, and while I thought that the movie was a decent watch, it makes many fundamental mistakes with the story and writing that hurt it. In this video, I'm going to analyze and break down what those mistakes were that led to a movie that I was hoping would be great, but in the end, it wasn't. To everyone watching this video, especially if you are a die-hard fan of the Wolfman character, where does this film rank amongst every single one of the Wolfman movies that have been made to this day? Let me know in the comments. Most of the time, I usually like to jump right into the main topic of the video, but I actually just want to start off by saying what I liked about the movie and what I thought was good. For one, Leigh Whannell as a director is a guy that I absolutely respect within this genre. He's been around a very long time, as early as when the original Saw movie was made back in the early 2000s. He's acted in films, he's written some films, and he's also now gotten more into directing movies, Wolfman being his now fourth film as a director. I personally thought that he knocked it out of the park with his direction. You can just tell that the dude loves filmmaking and loves the genre of horror. He's also just really good at directing actors and getting them in the headspace of knowing the kind of film that they are in. Believe me when I say that, go watch The Invisible Man. It has one of the best performances in a horror movie this century so far from Elizabeth Moss. Leigh Whannell always brings a good sense of the things that work within a horror movie by focusing more on the tension, suspense, and also sometimes its imagery. Our three actors, who are pretty much the only three that the film focuses on, from Christopher Abbott, Garner, and Matilda Firth, do a good enough job with what they are given. The thing that I was definitely most impressed by was almost all of this film's technical aspects. The usage of practical effects to make the Wolfman character come out is very impressive, and also required with this kind of character. I'm really glad that they did not go down the route of CGI for it. I love that they actually went on location to shoot the film, along with it creating for great cinematography and shot composition. For those who have seen the movie, there is one particular frame at the very beginning of the film looking at the backs of two characters as they look over the horizon of a valley that is so breathtakingly beautiful. The movie takes place in the state of Oregon, but yet was shot in New Zealand, so I guess take that for what you will. But with all that being said about the good stuff that this movie did, we do sadly have to talk about the stuff that comes down to its fundamental mistakes, which is around the story and the writing. I may talk spoilers here for this, so you have been warned if you have not seen the movie yet. So the general idea of the film is that it follows this guy and his family as they travel back to his childhood home in Oregon to collect what they can from the house after his father passed away. Along the way, they come across a creature that starts hunting them. Christopher Abbott's Blake gets infected by it, and that is where we get the Wolfman transformation storyline to commence. That is ultimately where the film finds its biggest issue. You get the general idea that what the story is going for is you follow this guy who starts to transform into the Wolfman over one night, and you have to find out whether or not that will affect the rest of the family. His wife and daughter have to continuously deal with this idea in mind of if they should help him or if they should let him go. Because of that, it allows for a major loophole to slip through in the script's continuity. Right after the transformation is fully complete, you would assume that the new Wolfman would start hunting down the wife and daughter, but in actuality, that's not necessarily what happens. And so with that in mind, the film finds itself not having any emotional weight to the stakes that our two characters can face. Because the new Wolfman doesn't necessarily have it in him to attack his family, you start feeling less about what the point is exactly for the plot to exist. In movies like this, you have to feel that there are stakes in mind for who could potentially die or get hurt. With a part of Blake's subconscious still within this new Wolfman, it defeats the purpose in mind that you are actually following this creature who has no control of itself and will attack anyone no matter who it is. It slogs down the pacing just a bit, and it's something that could be a make or break for an audience member, depending on if they like it or if they don't. It makes you wonder if the movie would have been better off being a more generic monster movie about the creature hunting down a group of people that you follow instead of what we actually got. I mean, there's only one death in the entire film, and that death happens off-screen to a character who only has less than 5 minutes of screen time. What do you all think? I mean, would you rather have had a more generic monster movie, one that we could see a lot more violence and death in? Please do let me know in the comments, and we'll see what people think. The next biggest issue that the movie has is around its concept of commentary and allegory. Now, Leigh Whannell has already done this with a film like Upgrade, but then also recently with The Invisible Man, and he did it very well in those films. The Invisible Man particularly represents the idea of how women are treated in abusive relationships, and how it can follow them after to haunt them, especially if they are dealing with a form of PTSD from it, where it might make them go crazy, and it seems like nothing actually ever happened. Here in Wolfman, it takes on the aspect of commentary around dysfunctional family relationships, being a good parent to your kid, and potential divorce between two partners. This kind of commentary and allegory is very relatable to a lot of people, as there's always going to be somebody out there who is dealing with this kind of stuff. Leigh Whannell has even said as much in interviews that this is what he was going for. You see within the character of Blake that he is struggling in some parenting roles, and he wants to make it up to his wife, but also be a good representation to his daughter that he can be a good father, unlike his own, who treated him very badly as a kid. Sometimes the most relatable things can get you more into the characters and make you feel for them. When we see parts of ourselves or people we know reflected in a character, it can make their struggles, desires, or growth feel more immediate and personal. It also makes the story feel more grounded, helping the audience to suspend disbelief and become emotionally invested. I'd say that this movie particularly can make you emotionally invested for the right and wrong reasons sometimes. The story is definitely grounded, and it doesn't tend to go off into any form of a supernatural territory. Even the very idea of how the Wolfman is transformed in this film is grounded in the sense that it's done through an infection, as opposed to how you've seen it be done in other entertainment, where if they look up at the moon, they turn into the wolf. When you take that aspect of grounded commentary and you infuse it into these three characters, it doesn't fully get there to the point where you really care for them, especially when we factor in the emotional stakes problem that the film does have. By using this aspect of dysfunctional family commentary, it wants to make you feel like you can actually want the family to live even more and feel bad for the fact that the husband is the one who turned. As the story progresses with his transformation to the Wolfman, you start to see that Julia Garner, as his wife, starts to feel more for her husband, even though they had dysfunction beforehand, so the commentary seeps its way through the story, even though it's not completely there for you to grasp its importance. I did particularly like that sometimes this is communicated through two different forms of communication. One, through Julia Garner's point of view, where she is unable to speak to him and she can't understand what he is saying, and through his point of view, where he is able to not understand what she is saying, and he sees nothing but Wolfman vision, as I guess we'll call it for now. Not to say that this has any inherent connection to why all of this felt off, but as you'll notice on the writing credits, Leigh Whannell wrote the movie along with his wife. If you go on her IMDb, you'll see that this is the first thing that she has ever written. In my opinion, I do believe that this was a calculated mistake to have her be included on the process. I totally understand what they were going for with making the film like this, but it just didn't fully get there, and it might have needed a little bit more time. As it is, every single movie that Leigh Whannell has directed so far, he has also wrote himself, minus Wolfman. So maybe next time he makes a movie, he can be the one who is the sole writer. To be clear, this is no offense to his wife by any means. I am not dogging on her if that is how some will perceive my analysis of that. I'm just not sure that it was the right idea to put a first-time writer on a film like this one. My next and final issue with the movie is not as big as the other two, but it has to do with the fact that I believe a lot of the continuity and world building of this universe's Wolfman gets lost in translation. They establish at the very beginning, with text on the screen, that the virus is seen by some as more of a curse that they refer to as Face of the Wolf. That is seemingly some backstory to how this thing is established in the world, but the movie never takes you through an exposition or lore dump about it. It kind of just lets you go along with it, and it sees if you can pick up on it as the film goes along. The first 10 to 15 minutes establish quickly that it is something that certain people have been hunting down for a while in order to stop. But again, if this thing is out there, you would think that most people, at least within that area of the state, would be on high alert all the time, and it would be a national emergency. So that's why I say that some of the world-building aspects of this movie don't quite all fit in place, and it might have been one of the more lesser-focused aspects of the story. It's not like I totally needed all that to be established to me. I think that the film could totally work much more well on its own without all the backstory stuff coming in and distracting you, but I guess maybe that's just me. But I think the last thing ultimately that I want to get off my chest from this movie is that while at the end of the day, I thought it was a decently entertaining watch with multiple different issues, it doesn't distract from the fact that I still love Leigh Whannell as a filmmaker. I think this guy really understands filmmaking, and every now and then, a director is just going to find a film that is not their best work, and they learn from it and go on to make something even better. I can't harp on it enough that everything that I mentioned at the top of the video about what the film did well all comes from him as a filmmaker and director. He talked about how in interviews that he really took inspiration from those older Wolfman films when making his own. He really does know what he's doing. I just think that maybe next time around he can tighten it up a little bit on the script within the story in order to make it more compelling. I do also think that he should stay within the realm of the horror genre, or at least maybe the sci-fi genre as well, given that Upgrade is probably his best film. I watched it a few days before seeing Wolfman, and that film still stands up with its simplicity, but also again, just really good filmmaking. But there you have it. That's my analysis on Wolfman 2025. What do you all think of the movie and my commentary on it? Leave your comments down below and let's have a nice and respectful conversation about it. I can't ask enough that you do please be respectful as I read all my comments to the best of my ability. Thank you all for stopping by my channel. If you want to see more moving forward from me with regards to film and television and you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new here and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on here and your support would be appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day and I will see you all soon for the next video.